The National Newspaper Publishers Association represents 253 African American owned newspapers across the United States. We are the trusted voice of the community, reporting the news on freedom, justice, and equality. I'm Benjamin F. Chavis Jr., and on behalf of Events DC and the National Newspaper Publishers Association, we're very honored to have our distinguished congressman from Rhode Island, Congressman Gabe Amo. You know, man, having an African American representing uh, a diverse state like Rhode Island, congratulations.
Thank you.
You're in the first congressional district.
I am. So that covers about 60% of Providence,
Yes.
Aquidneck Island, where historic Newport is, and up to the Massachusetts border through the Blackstone Valley, which is the birthplace of the American Industrial Revolution.
Great. I see you on a very important committee in the Congress dealing with science.
Yes, sir.
That's very important because, you know, there is a somewhat of a, not a stigma, but a question of whether or not communities of color can get involved in STEM, you know, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. But the truth of the matter is, in a lot of our HBCUs, our young people are excelling in these formats. Tell us from your perspective, Congressman Amo, what do you see as the mission of your committee assignment now vis-a-vis your constituency in Rhode Island?
Well, it is to tap in to the history of innovation and excellence across cutting edge fields and spaces. That's what we've done in America. You know, your own background suggests that. We were just talking before about your science background and your civil rights background coming together. And that's what's fundamentally American, is that we allow our young people to find fields that compel them to excellence that pushes our country forward. So in my service on the Science, Space, and Technology Committee, I've taken a very specific mission to democratize, to empower, and allow our young people to tap into the full potential of artificial intelligence. I've got a piece of legislation that I've introduced called the LIFT AI Act, Leading in Future Technologies Artificial Intelligence Act. And this is to democratize the tech by allowing our secondary education teachers to have the tools they need so that we can unlock this future that we have around AI for everybody, especially our young students who may not have access to the computing power, who may not have access to all of the tools that are available so that they can thrive in this new world.
Well, yes, that's a great responsibility, a very important responsibility, Congressman. And given you're a young man.
I am 37 years old.
And again, speaks to you kind of practice what you preach in terms of striving for excellence. At a young age, you have attained a very high office in the Congress of the United States. I want to go back to 10 years ago, we would have said we're in the digital age. Today, we're in the AI age,
yes,
artificial intelligence age, and we'll be following this legislation that you have introduced. I'm going to go back to something fundamental, and just in terms of education. The importance of reading, the importance of reading literacy, the importance of financial literacy, the importance of health care literacy. And it seems to me the innovations and technology hopefully will enhance all Americans, but particularly Americans from underserved communities, to grasp and gain on the pathway toward wealth building with these improvements in literacy. Does your committee also make sure that not only teachers but students have the opportunity to be available to the latest in innovations in technology?
Yes, you know, there's a lot of cross-pollination around the work in Congress, and that's why I've been fixated on enhancing some of the things we do in my great state of Rhode Island. We are one of the few states in the country where there is a financial literacy requirement for high school graduation.
A requirement.
A requirement, because it is not your mom and pop's home economics classroom. It is not the same old sort of basic bookkeeping. We have everything from cryptocurrency to navigating home buying in a very difficult market. So I'm a sponsor of legislation by my great friend Andre Carson of Indianapolis, and he's got a great bill around financial literacy and supporting that from the federal level. Another thing that I help lead in Congress, I am a co-chair of the Stop Scams Caucus. And in that role, we know that our people, oftentimes people of color in particular, are subject to scam artists. And it fits in the same bucket of financial literacy. It also applies to not just the young, but also our seniors as well. It's critically important that everybody across the spectrum understands the complexity of the financial instruments that we're operating with and the consequences of making certain decisions. And that's why I'm so thrilled that you've raised that topic.
Well, thank you. I was smiling as I listened to you, because I deal with a lot of young people. I represent the Black press of America. We deal with millennials and Generation Z, and a lot of young people in our communities feel that they can make it without financial literacy, or that they can make it without having some access to education. They just want to stack their paper, that's the term they use. But it seems to me, touching on financial literacy, I'm going to make a connection, if you allow me.
Yes, sir.
The social determinants of health. A lot of studies have shown that one of the reasons why in our communities we disproportionately have all these adverse health conditions, these pre-existing health conditions, is because we don't get the information on time, or the information we get sometimes is disinformation and wrong information. So it seems to me that AI could not only help us afford more viability in financial literacy, but also in health literacy.
Yes, this is brilliant because you identify the connections. The whole concept of social determinants of health, as you know, is the interconnectedness of our lives.
Yes.
It is the block you live on. It is the doctor you're able to go to. It is the education in the schools that is passed on, taken often from students to educate their parents and their family people back home. It is so much of our transportation system, the water we drink. All of it is connected. And the common denominator there between all the things we've talked about is information is power. It's fundamental. And so when you address the social determinants of health, what you're recognizing is you have to have a whole picture of the context and the circumstance in which one exists in order to address their issues. So if you go to, the hospital, you go to the doctor,
Yes,
and you are addressing some cancer, some ailment that, might be a commonality around the community, that might be something that we often miss because we don't have the literature and literacy around it, that we often see caused by certain, functions. For example, if you have lead paint in a household, you have these complicated interlocking aspects of our lives. And that's why assessing the social determinants of health is a very thoughtful approach to engaging with the challenges that we face. But there's opportunity there. And that's where the tech can be a big part.
In preparing for this interview, I see that the science community work on also has a subcommittee on environment. All these disciplines, if you will, as you state, are interrelated. As a member of the Congressional Black Caucus, what would you say over the next 3 to 5 years should be the programmatic priorities of the CBC?
Well, I think we've touched on some of them in this conversation. I think wealth creation, I think jobs and opportunity in advancing spaces like AI, like tech. We can't be left behind. we're often, first in, last out to the problems that are facing this country. We need to be on the front lines and creating a pathway to opportunities. So wealth creation, jobs, but health. Health is so integral. It's why I'm fighting so hard in Congress to make sure that we are able to prevent the deep cuts to our healthcare apparatus that we've seen $1 trillion come out of our healthcare system. $1 trillion via the legislation that the president signed this last summer. He calls it the One Big Beautiful Bill. And so that is a problem. Additionally, right now,
and for many, it's the One Big Ugly Bill.
One, I see you said it, I didn't, but but it's terribly important that we also avert another parallel crisis for people's healthcare premiums. President Obama had that amazing Affordable Care Act. President Biden built upon it with a Democratic Congress to encourage people to actually be able to afford their health care by providing a premium tax credit that was enhanced. So every month it cut that premium bill, which was a big barrier to entry for so many people in the health insurance market. And now that's going to go up significantly if Congress doesn't act by the end of this year. So those dueling challenges, in order to prevent those bigger health issues, you have to have a primary care physician. You have to have a contact with a healthcare provider who can guide you to the path and prevent bad things from happening. So I'm working very hard there because health is in fact wealth.
Right. We began by focusing on financial literacy. And now you've shown very adequately the connection to health and to education and all of the things dealing around AI. As you look forward, in not only your congressional district, but in others where over 60 members now of the CBC.
62
yes. members. It's the largest group of African-American congresspersons that we've ever had. But it shows some progress. I remember when it was less than 10.
Yes.
And so God has blessed our country to have such diversity in leadership. I wanted to ask you before we end, from your, Rhode Island's a very diverse state.
It is.
Your congressional district itself is diverse. How is the perception of the importance of diversity?
It is so important to recognize that, like our country's motto, e pluribus unum, out of many one.
Yeah.
We bring together so many different things. I like to say we should recognize our differences as a gumbo, right? Where you got to have a lot of different pieces to it, and they come together, then they're cooked over time, and that's what delivers the flavor, and that's how America becomes great. So in my congressional district, which has people who've come from backgrounds such as Cape Verde, Italy, Ireland, Portugal, West African communities like my background, my dad from Ghana, my mom from Liberia, to recent.
I know your mother and father are very proud.
I hope they are. I'm working hard to get
the son of Africa is in the Congress of the United States.
I hope I make them proud. And so we have this rich tapestry. People from Guatemala, Dominican Republic, Peru, Puerto Rico, in addition to historic communities and our indigenous people. And that's what makes this country great. That's why I believe I have the best congressional district in America, because it is a reflection of our past, but the potential of our future.
Last question, Congressman Amo. I always ask this question.
All right.
Based on your experience, based on your achievement, what gives you your greatest hope today for the future of your people in your congressional, but the future of America?
I'm inspired every single day by two things. One, the unity in the story that we have. We all come from some version of someone before us exhibiting a great amount of hard work, grit, resilience, and determination to make our tomorrow better than today. So someone did it before. That means I can do it now. So that's one. The second, young people. When I see someone young, I put myself back in their shoes. I don't care how old you are, whether it's the 3-year-olds on their way to daycare, or whether it's those high school students or college students I interact with in my job. They will have a world, God willing, that is longer than mine and sees more of an arc in change. And so the optimism I have is that we are constantly in a cycle of regrowth and generation. That is human nature. And we generally have, even though we have some zigs and zags, go forward. And that gives me hope that I can be part of making us go forward in some way in this job, in this work, and in this life.
Congressman Gabe Amo, thank you for joining us today.
It was an honor to be with you.
We are the official host for the nation's capital. We are all things sports. From captivating culinary to celebrating legends and so much more. We are Events DC.
Let's go bigger, I'm that killer. Coming in hot, make you jump like a thriller.
World-class people delivering world-class events. Events DC.
I'm Benjamin F. Chavis Jr. On behalf of Events DC and the National Newspaper Publishers Association, we're honored to be able to interview one of our nation's leading health officials. You with a great company, Bayer, Dr. Yasmine Wahdan. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here, especially to be back in my hometown. So it's wonderful. Thank you.
So tell us, what do you do at Bayer?
So I am a physician by training. I actually trained here in DC. OBGYN is my specialty, obstetric and gynecology. I went into Bayer and have grown up within the medical, what we call medical affairs realm at Bayer. And so I work with and serve alongside individuals who help to bring science to life and make the science make sense, right? Turn it into medicine, because data and tables and charts and figures, we need to apply those to people's lives and help make those lives better. So that's the part of the team I work with.
Well, great. Well, it's a big company, global company.
Yeah.
In our nation today, there's some debate about access to healthcare, and there's some debate about pharmaceuticals. From your perspective as a physician, how important is the issue of health literacy?
It's incredibly important. Health literacy is important because it ensures that individuals understand their bodies, number one, and understand the options that they have available to them in order to keep their bodies healthy, no matter what stage of life that they're going through. I'm particularly proud of working at Bayer because we have a strong desire to want to impact the lives of individuals across the entire life cycle of their life. For example, in women's healthcare, we have innovation that serves women all the way from their young adulthood into menopause. And so that's incredibly important because individuals have so much to give no matter what stage of life they're in.
That's very important. From your perspective in the industry, first, and then we'll go to Bayer. What are the opportunities for women to come up and be like you, an executive in the company?
I think the opportunities are more than ever available to us now, and it's so important to have those voices at the table, and to have those voices at the table to bring forward perhaps points of view and perspectives that maybe haven't been taken into consideration in the past when women were largely not present at the C-suite level. And so having those voices there has proven not only to be important and impactful in driving initiatives related to women, but it's also brought together an opportunity to drive innovation that hasn't ever even been thought of before, right? New perspectives that are actually helping to drive businesses and organizations forward, not only from a sort of organizational health and growth perspective, but also from an innovation standpoint.
That's a good segue. How has AI, artificial intelligence, and other innovations in technology impacted your industry?
I think the impact has only started to happen. It's only begun, right? We are certainly at the brink of a new frontier. And I think the important the important part, much like health literacy, is that we understand and we are literate about what AI is, how it can help us, how it can hurt us in some ways, right? And we understand that fine balance so that we can maximize and optimize ways to use it for good. And so far, I'm happy to say that we have incredible teams of individuals within at least Bayer, and I'm sure other organizations that are focusing on AI, focusing on how it can be applied from drug discovery, use-inspired research, innovation, and understanding how, for one example, we can bring innovation to individuals quicker than we have in the past.
So there are so many programs that Bayer have. People watching, if they want to get information about Bayer, what website would they go to?
So we have a website that we can share with the team here, but it's bayer.com that you can go to. And there are many different links from there that link you to the different areas of health that Bayer is involved in, the agricultural aspects that Bayer is involved in, but also what we call our consumer health side of Bayer, where there's information about over-the-counter therapies that folks can pick up for themselves to help them feel good.
Very good. You know, the medical profession. You're an esteemed doctor.
Thank you.
With a lot of success. That's why you helped to lead Bayer today. The pathways to careers in pharmacy or in medicine in general, do you see that door opening for groups that historically may have not had ready access to get a medical education or an opportunity in pharmaceuticals?
Well, I would say one, it has to. I think we can't accept any longer that it's not the case. And two, I think we have such incredible examples of when that is nurtured, how much impact it can bring. Again, from an innovation perspective, from an organizational growth standpoint, it is good. It is good for business. It's good for innovation. It's good for growth. And it's good for future-proofing ourselves for what's to come.
Very good. What are the top 3 current priorities of Bayer?
I would say the top 3 current priorities of Bayer are to stay strong and committed to our mission, which is health for all, hunger for none. 2, to continue to drive innovation in the spaces that we are so committed to across the spectrum. And 3, to ensure that we are doing all from our perspective to ensure that what we are developing gets to those who it's supposed to be, where it's intended to get to, right? Making sure that we pay attention to that access piece and working through partners and programs to make sure that, especially those who are most vulnerable and maybe not have the resources to get the care that they need through, let's just say, more other avenues that more individuals might, that we are there to help and support.
So Bayer has corporate contributions as well as foundation contributions. How does the corporate and the foundation work together to solve some of the problems, some of the challenges that many communities face in terms of healthcare?
I think the way that I like to look at it is this is not a one-man show, right? It's going to take partnership. It's going to take private and public collaboration and partnership and discussion to, one, identify what those challenges are, and then really make a committed effort towards solving those challenges and doing right by people, right? At the end of the day, we will be judged always by our character and helping those who need it most. And so if you understand that it's not a one-man show, and the intent is not to be in it for the glory, it's to be in it for the right reasons, then I think we're capable of solving many things.
I can detect in the way you're answering these questions that you have some passion for what you do.
Indeed.
So in terms of a broader question about the pharmaceutical industry, and particularly Bayer, do you see the importance of people who know the science offering public policy solutions other than people who don't know the science offering public policy decisions, particularly on healthcare?
Sure.
I'm always concerned, when people who are not doctors give you medical advice, or people who are not scientists give you scientific advice. How does Bayer grapple with that contradiction?
Well, I would say my aunt does that all the time. So I deal with that at home, but at work, we grapple with it in the manner of just doubling down on the need for literacy, health literacy through education and awareness, and having individuals, particularly from the medical side of our organization, driving a lot of those efforts to bring education, bring information, and constantly drive that home. And there are policymakers who serve in their own right, and I think it's an opportunity to bridge the gap between the two. As I said, public policy, and even on the private sector, ensuring that everyone understands the information and that we serve our purpose in the best way possible, and know that we are all part of a bigger ecosystem, right? A bigger picture. So if everybody understands their place and everybody does what they are supposed to do, right? Us on the medical side or the scientific side are here to educate, right? Here to make sure people understand. Then we can lean on one another for the other parts that are important.
Very good. Do you have internships or apprenticeships? How do young people get involved in what Bayer has to offer in terms of career development?
Yeah. So I would say the first and most important thing is networking, getting out there and reaching out to folks, for example, on platforms like LinkedIn. And you would be surprised at how open and eager folks are to share information about opportunities for internships or coming in to just shadow and take a look at what's happening and what's going on. It's quite motivating and quite exciting. It's just taking that step to reach out and being bold to do so. And there's so much to be offered and so much to be learned. I would also say that there are many programs that I've been very fortunate enough to be a part of at Bayer, where we are pushing into communities. We had an initiative at one point where myself and some of my colleagues would go around to historically Black universities and share HBCUs, exactly, and share with them sort of our career trajectories, how we got to where we got, and different ways that you can get involved.
Young people responding when they hear the opportunity.
That's exactly right. Folks would come in, and it would be virtual meetings where it's just gather, coffee chats. You sit down and ask questions, what's on your mind, and figure it out. But people are more willing than you might think to share where they've been and how they got to where they are.
Part of what you do is view the whole landscape.
Correct.
Of healthcare in the United States.
That's right.
So you're the perfect person that I asked this final question. Based on your knowledge, based on your career, based on what you see, what gives you your greatest hope today?
My greatest hope is that with hardship comes ease, always. If we rely on humanity, rely on one another, and give each other the benefit of the doubt, we will pull through. So that is my greatest hope, that with every hardship comes ease.
Affirmation of the oneness of our humanity.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right.
Dr. Yasmine Wahdan, thank you so much for spending time with us on behalf of Events DC and the National Newspaper Publishers Association. And best wishes to you.
Thank you very much for having me.
I think Bayer is in good shape with people like you at the top.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you.